Normally, I wouldn't record under these circumstances immediately after treatment. But what's happening right now is too serious to wait. There's a difference between misinformation and something far more dangerous that's happening. Misinformation is when facts are wrong. What we're seeing now is when facts are treated as irrelevant. After the shooting in Minnesota involving U.S. immigration and customs enforcement, the response from the White House did not begin with uncertainty. It did not begin with investigation. It did not begin with restraint. It began with a verdict. This is the first red flag. Before reports were compiled, before evidence was reviewed, before even a basic acknowledgement of loss, the story was already complete. The woman who was killed was labeled a violent domestic terrorist. The operation was declared legitimate. Lethal force was framed as necessary. That alone should have stopped people cold. Because when power skips the words, "we are investigating," it isn't confident, it's defensive. What makes this case different isn't outrage, although it is much deserved. It's evidence. There is video, multiple angles, continuous footage. You don't need access. You don't need expertise. You can simply watch. And yet many people didn't. And others did and chose the official story anyway. That's the shift. Here's what is visible, not inferred and not assumed. Agents approach the vehicle. Agents reach into the vehicle. Agents attempt to open the door. The vehicle moves slowly, attempting to turn away. Shots are fired through the windshield. Shots continue as the vehicle is moving away. These are not opinions. These are sequences. You've heard the phrase by now, a multi-ton metal death machine. That phrase erases context. A vehicle can be a weapon or it can be an escape. The difference is agency and alternatives. Here's the detail that collapses the self-defense claim. If the agent can step aside after firing, then stepping aside before firing was also possible. That matters legally. It matters ethically. And it matters even more when it's on camera. Illegality doesn't disappear because authority says so. Even if later justifications were true and the footage contradicts them, lethal force still would not be justified. Disrupting an operation is not a capital offense. Being an agitator is not a death sentence. Alleged wrongdoing does not erase due process. Law enforcement does not get to create danger and then claim fear. That isn't enforcement. That is narrative laundering after the fact. What's happened since is far more alarming. As additional footage has emerged, footage that further contradicts the official narrative, the response has not softened, it's hardened. Senior officials have doubled down, not cautiously, not conditionally. And now language has entered the conversation that attempts to place federal agents beyond accountability altogether before any independent investigation has concluded. When evidence grows stronger and authority grows louder, pay attention. I need to step outside the analysis for a moment. Raw frame exists to examine systems, the mechanics, the architecture, the patterns underneath power and other dynamics. But I'm not a machine. A woman was killed, a citizen, a mother. And it is difficult and frankly wrong to treat this only as an abstraction. I'm physically vulnerable right now, and watching people explain this away, watching them choose narrative over a human life is deeply unsettling. Compassion is not weakness, and refusing to normalize this matters extraordinarily. This case is destabilizing for one more reason. The person who was killed was a US citizen. She was white. She was a mother. Someone many people can imagine being. When identification collapses distance, narrative control has to work harder. That's why the response was immediate and absolute. This is the test we're in right now. Not whether violence occurred, but whether perception still counts. We are being asked to reject what we can see and accept what we are told instead. That phrase has a history. It has lived in history, and it never appears in healthy systems. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm asking you to notice what happens when you are told not to believe yourself. That video doesn't matter, that sequence doesn't matter, that alternatives don't matter. If evidence no longer constrains power, narrative becomes law. This episode exists to keep the record clean, even if only a few people ever see it. Especially if only a few people ever see it.